nothing too crazy. Again, we haven't seen anything crazy as far as playing paths so far, Clover.
Yeah, and I mean, really the only big change up right now is that Zenith taking their alternative drop spot down at the very south. It puts them kind of close to Fabled. Rip right now kind of squished themselves between Lada and Mystery, but as you said, nothing too terribly crazy. It's going to be wherever that first circle pops that we're going to have an idea on how this is going to play. Now, the very first game was a pretty mild vanilla circle, as we put it. Game number 2 was full of a lot of hard shifts, and so it's these third and fourth matches that could do quite a bit to benefit some of these teams.
Wow,
as you see, we are going to the east. All right.
Yeah, so not only did this plane path cut off, quite a bit of the east, but now the circle has decided to not only shift to the east, but so far that it's actually have, the coast and the water in. So this is going to be interesting to watch this giant clump of teams, who have settled on the west because of alternate, drop paths or what have you due to the plane, have to rotate in altogether. I think the west coast may potentially become a bloodbath. I would definitely tell everyone to watch for teams rotating wide north, going for that kind of long rotation north, or even if you taking south, because west is it's congested.
Yeah, I mean, even when we look on the inside of the zone, Veritas here is, as well as ATC out in San Martin. We've got Shoot to Kill with the nice split out here but Purdy Curdy and Luke kind of up near Hacienda, and then of course Sonic's in Picado. So all of the teams that are out to the west are going to have to be ones that will need to work their way in, and it's about half the lobby right now is actually outside of the zone and needs to start working their way in. And the only people that really I think have an easy rotation that shouldn't have to worry about all is going to be Illusion. They're up north, they're in Cabrera, they're going to have an easy rotation with no one up ahead of them. And Illusion, I feel like we haven't really gotten to talk about them as much as I would like, but Illusion's been in the late game so far for both matches 1 and 2. And when, look at the group stages and the stats for the teams that have done the best on Miramar, Illusion is constantly up there in all of those stats. They find themselves up in the late game. They're doing damage. They're getting kills. And I think that this is the map that they're the most comfortable for. And so the teams like 303 and Dodge that don't necessarily have a match where I think that they're strongest at, to kind of have a day like today where I don't want to say you struggled a bit. 303's only put down 6 points so far, but I think that they've kind of struggled in their rotations, right? And so now you're looking at all these teams that once again are going to have a really difficult rotation in phase number 1, and you kind of wonder, when are some of these guys going to get a little bit of a break?
Well, to be fair, we've seen 303 kind of do their best work on the edge. So as long as they kind of employ that, which I imagine they will, especially in this circle, of playing an edge to their advantage, especially if it comes to being aggressive, I think they'll be fine. Illusion, I mean, as you said, these guys have come in so far towards the end of both games. We know how hungry these guys are, especially with the leadership of Adam kind of coming into play. And I feel like they'll pick it up. They haven't had, again, a bad start by any means. They have 15 points at 4th place, but I still think like there's more that this team can kind of squeeze out of these games, and I'm sure they'll get there once they feel a little more comfortable. But they have a great start. 303, the team that you mentioned afterwards, again, I feel like if they can really kind of set their sights on which zone they want to play and which edge, I think they're going to be just fine as far as kind of cleaning that up, because that is their play style. That's what they like to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and two, I mean, I think as you even said earlier before we went into the last match, Radiance, right? Another team that unfortunately went out pretty early. Yet again, they only have 2 kills so far after 2 matches. Not at all what we were expecting from them.
No, but to be fair, I really thought that roster would actually have a much more explosive start than a slow start. But I also know, from experience with playing with half that roster, that the mindset reset is very real, and that's something that Los and Waldo can do, and I'm sure that McCoy and Gaxi can do that as well, and I'm pretty sure they'll make a comeback and get a good amount of points pretty soon here. If not today, then I can guarantee you they're not going to go quietly tomorrow. So I'm not worried about Radiance. I'm kind of surprised that they've had 2 bad starts, but hell, I mean, the Rumblers also had bad start games, and we did just fine after that. So I think they'll be okay.
Is there any team that you think that you are worried about so far as we're halfway into day number 1?
It's so early to tell, and it's so easy to pick some bottom teams, right? But I just don't think Zenith should be there, to be completely honest. I don't know. I just feel like the way they've come in the last couple of games, their decision making on the rotations have been a little rushed, and because of that, they've struggled and they got wiped really, really heavily by Liberate in the first game. So I don't know. I'm just not worried about anyone. It's just the start. Everyone is feeling each other out. Nothing is really that set in stone yet. So I think all these teams are fine.
And I think, too, when we look historically in the past, day number one, while it can give us a general idea of how well players are going to be performing, it's by no means, as you said, really a lock of what to expect. And oftentimes, it shake off the day one jitters, especially since we're only playing one map today. It's not Erangel and Miramar today. It's only Miramar. And so I think after this weekend, we might be able to have a better idea and say, okay, well, now we're 1 weekend down. We've still got a couple more days and games left to go. Where's it going to go from here? But that said, the mentality shifts itself a little bit too when we go into those grand finals as opposed to the group stages. And that's where we've seen some teams really flourish and some teams not do so well. I mean, Radiance during PCS1 only placed 9th overall in group stages. And so I think that was one of the reasons why we got really excited about the growth that we saw from them here in PCS2. Is kind of, as Toffees and others have said, it was like seeing the McCoy of old. And really them coming back into their own. And so there's so much potential from a lot of these rosters, as you even said, Zenith included, but unfortunately the rotations just keep catching them out, and already you could see they've lost kickstart when they rotated into Fabled a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we'll see. I think what you said, as far as, after the first weekend, then we can start to maybe worry about some of these teams, but it's just way too early at this point. And Roth is going to get a nice little rotation here. In fact, they're getting all the way down here to Impala. This is a very uncontested area. No one's here yet, and they can definitely set up for a nice play here, specifically because of where the circle is.
I mean, and oftentimes, too, I think when we see these circles, there's a handful of opportunities and places that we can kind of attribute to where it will go. Typically, it's all of the rocky terrain out to the east of Minas Generalis, which is why we're seeing a lot of teams right now start to set up shop here in the centralized part. ATC coming in from the north, though they need to be a little bit careful. Illusion's kind of in this area. And we can kind of even see off in the kill feed, Veritas and Shoot to Kill have been going at it outside of Junkyard. And so there's already, with that kind of fight for the center part of the ground, with the flight path being so far to the west, a lot of teams trying to get themselves so far to the east and retake control of what's central to this part of the zone. That said, now back onto the fight here for Veritas and Shoot to Kill. See Jazza already with one up onto their name.
They should not be. They should be pressing this. I mean, they have a kill already. That's already one member down. I mean, they have all the pressure on two members straight ahead of them. Veritas is in the driver's seat here. They should definitely keep their foot on the gas against STK.
And there we have it, the circle with a very concentrated shift. Most teams already in the north. We still got some water into play. Meanwhile, Keenan going wide, looking for an angle here on Shoot to Kill. So trying to find yet another knock. We see Alo off downhill and into the distance as Luke 12's body is out. So Purdy Curdy sent it already into the zone, try to find a spot for safety. But that unfortunately means that Alo is trapped here with Pinthelel's sharp shot. And the rest of Veritas continuing to watch this as Alo is just going to run. I mean, just full send it away and try and stay alive.
No, I think he's going to fight this.
Veritas. I would hope so. I mean, Alo, we've seen him pull off 41 miracles before.
He doesn't have a choice. I mean, really, the only benefit here is if they actually leave and just let him, kind of be to his own devices. But look at this. Fabled on the other side have already taken out 2 of 303 here.
We go, and Landoon actually taking quite a bit of damage as well, sending it further away from the compound. As we can see there we go, Greg shots and the rest of Fabled back out. Now, Honey Badger, once again, on the opposite side for this. Honey Badger sent it out just a little bit earlier, trying to scout ahead positioning. Unfortunately, it was out of position to help out the rest of the team. And so back again, though, we did just kind of check in back in with Alo. Is going to be found by Veritas. They're going to get that knock. Shoot to Kill, unfortunately, is down to just one player onto this.
Yeah, Alo got a knock. He did what he could. I mean, Purdy leaving was pretty much the indication to Alo, like, hey, you're probably dead, man. Just try to get as many kills as you can or as much damage as possible. And so he got a knock and he went down. And now that's going to be STK now for, it's going to be a third game in a row where actually they don't necessarily have the best results. And they're going to go out in 16th.
I mean, really hate to see it, as now they've seen Great out with 7 kills, but a very interesting nade falling just short. I think had Honey Badger timed that a little bit better, could have been with, doesn't matter, finds the headshot there onto Rip. That's 2 knocks down for Fabled. We're going to have to clear out Honey Badger, but still be mindful of Landoon is in the area. They want to try and get these reses. Haxetti just about to bleed to death here. And we see Greg Shot preparing and looking for another angle onto this. Hella, I think, might have spotted Honey Badger, but he is laying low right now. She's got an 8x on the Mini 14. So Fabled was looking very good a moment ago, but now, unfortunately, has lost 2 players. That's Landoon. He's using this as an opportunity to push back to the compound.
Yeah, I like this. I like this from Landoon a lot, actually. Recognizing that the team that almost wiped them actually just lost 2 members. This is exactly what I want to see Landoon do, and he's doing it.
Well, that AKM is out and ready for that close-range combat as Landoon trying to get a little bit closer, picking up some utility. Walking up on the backside of Hella. Meanwhile, Greg Shot's working on those reses, and so that's going to even things out for Landoon. A 1v1 versus Hella if he could spot her into that small compound. But Fabled was able to get those reses, sending it back with the vehicle to try and stay alive onto this, but Landoon is being very quiet not to be spotted out as Honey Badger continuing to offer recovery fire, looking for Hella. She closes the door, but it's not going to be enough. Landoon getting the knock and flushed there with the AKM. And meanwhile, Bolty back out looking for a shot onto Greg Shot. As we see return fire out. Nice nade, getting ready for Rip. I think it's going to land inside the building. Landoon tries to make a run for it, volts out the window. And we'll find some safety here as Honey Badger continuing to offer cover fire. Rip, though, looking for an angle onto this M249.
And this I love this aggression here from Landoon. I think it was the right play. The only problem now is that, Honey Badger isn't really in a position to cover him, which is actually why he's driving in. I love this from 303. They're taking they're making the best out of a bad situation where they lost 2 members right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's now a 2v2 on the edge of zone. Both of these teams need to finish out this fight so they can work their way in. Meanwhile, though, Radiant's starting to extend a little bit. They're looking to see what's going on here. Los HD up ahead of the rest of the crew, and so Rip needs to really finish this up quickly as possible as Greg Shot still inside the warehouse looking for another angle onto 303, but I think this has taken long enough now. Radiance, they've peaked interest. And
Los, let me tell you, that man is a shark. He smells blood and water, especially when he hears fights. He immediately recognized that, and now here comes the rest of Radiance. These guys are, I'm sure, going to look for the cleanup, if not maybe even killing all 4 members of the 2 teams still left alive. Meanwhile, Corsac finds himself in pretty much the only safe dip in this field as the rest of Dodge comes in as well. They do have a bus to their... no, never mind. I thought that was a bus. No, it is a bus. They have a bus of disposal, so it's decent cover. Very tanky. And so where do you go from here now? What's Dodge's next play? Obviously, they're going to be fine in this circle, but rotation is going to be a little tough, especially with Duel sitting right there in that compound.
And I mean, we're only in phase 3, so there's still plenty of opportunities for another hard shift away from this. So Dodge can just use that to hold on to the mid game. It might be good enough. But back at this fight at hand between Fabled and 303, Greg Shot once again pushing back out and around, looking for an angle onto this. Utility is out, but no one from 303 is there to take that. Meanwhile, we can see just off to the right, Radiance has set up a gatekeep for this. Los and McCoy anchored in behind is Gaxi. It's going to send it just a bit further with Waldo trying to get more information onto this fight and maybe spot a kill. Greg Shot's actually quite open to Radiance onto this. The smokes are out. Can't quite see Landoon and Honey Badger.
It's so unfortunate because these 2 teams are going to do they're just going to fight so hard and use everything just to get those 2 kills, and then their prize is running into a full squad of Radiance. It's rough, but it's going to happen.
Kudos to Radiance for being patient on this as well, as they've been quiet. Greg Shot, though, will get the knock onto Landoon. Hasn't picked up the flush just yet. There it is. Honey Badger is very low, but hasn't been spotted just yet as Fabled try to pick this back up. We see a little bit more damage onto Honey Badger as he tries to run away to freedom. Spotted by Rip, and if Fabled will win this fight, they now have to turn their attention to get into the zone, and unbeknownst to them, Radiance is here waiting for them.
Their best move is to wrap south. They don't really have a lot of time for that, but we'll see what they end up doing. I do hear a vehicle. It looks like, Rip he's wrapping south. This is pretty much the only play they have to do. Is the only option that they have. Otherwise, they're going to run into a full Radiance. I'm also curious if any of them had kind of kept that in tracker. If any of the players that were dead on their team was like, hey, I heard cars, be careful. Oh man, Greg Shot. I don't think he's going to make it out of there alive.
No, it looks like all of Radiance is actually completely compounding on Greg's shot, who gets knocked and killed by Gaxi and Los HD. Rip has sent as far as he could away to the zone, but now needs to work his way north as the circle is actually centralized onto the crossroads. The dip that we saw Carnage send 2 players. Meanwhile, Liberate sends Ice Tech up ahead, scouting for a safe position as the rest of the team still up to the north. Liberate, another team that's been very, very happy to see. But, oh, looks like Duel spotting him out here. Ice Tech down to 50 HP. Lamplock knocks a couple shots onto here. And this is not a safe place to be with so many squads in the area. Out in utility range. Ice Tech down to 22. We saw some nades come back out. Well, it looks like we'll be able to heal this one off now. The question, of course, now comes if you're Ice Tech, if you've called out the rest of your teammates, where do you go? As you can see the rest of Liberate starting to close in. Guabi and Adit as they take on fire from Oath. Snakers and Patcaps are actually going to knock both players down. Patcaps can take it out by Shrimsy. Look at that.
And this is really rough for Liberate. It's not exactly the best situation for Oath, but they at least are kind of on the edge of this, so they can kind of back off. Liberate, on the other hand, cannot. I mean, simply Matt just has to get in. He either has to choose between potentially running into Sonics or just, getting shot from a distance.
I think the biggest thing right now that's helping out Simply Mad is that Sonics are a little bit distracted by trying to flush out what's left of Liberate. As he's coming in on foot, nobody's really looking in this direction, so he should be able to get into the edge of zone, not being spotted, as well as Ice Techs. But I say that Mime spots him. He's a little bit of damage coming out there, so Liberate in a tricky situation. That's Simply Mad looking for that close range fight onto this.
That's a little bit of pressure alleviated. It looks like Mime is going to get out wisely, I might add, because you don't want to take a 1v1 unnecessarily on the edge without your team. But he is still holding edge, so we'll see what Simply Matt here does. I think he's just going to kind of relax for a second, and now Mime is in a little bit of trouble. Shots coming out, and Tiggleton's been knocked.
As Sonics, unfortunately, just a little bit split onto this. Now, as you say, Tiggleton knocked, but should be able to hopefully get the res here. Smokes out. Sonics working to keep up and alive onto this and hold their position safely into the zone. They've still got a shack to work with, but looking at the minimap, Veritas starting to work in on the edge as well. And so as Mime is going to go ahead and get into that Murado and rejoin the rest of her team safely, taking a little bit of shots from Oath, nothing quite too serious. Mime... I mean, the rest of these teams, this circle is once again very out in the open. And what we've seen, I think, been the make or break for some of these teams in the mid game is their ability to stay alive and prevent themselves from these pinch situations right now, as we see Sonic starting to take fire from both Oath and Veritas.
Yeah, I gotta say, Sonics has done a great job of the best they can of minimizing the damage by placing their vehicles in certain positions, kind of using what little terrain they have to their advantage. But either way, they're still stuck in a tight spot, especially with the people from Monty just really teeing off on them, as well as it looks like they're about to get crashed by Veritas. Yeah.
Ooh. Shrimsy had just barely pushed himself out. H-Win was already knocked and flushed by Oath, and Veritas read that as an opportunity to take this push here, seeing that Sonics were down, but Jazz and Keenan are going to get Mime. It looks like they actually get 2 players of Sonics out. Shrimsy and Tiggleton trying to hold on to this as well. Shrimsy falls down as well. Tig, once again, the last player still up, but he's going to get a knock and flush onto Keenan. Nades out, looking for another here, and gets him. Roth actually helping out, taking out Pintalol from range, and Veritas goes out, but unfortunately for the Sonics, they are going to lose 3 here.
And, man, Tig, again, the last member alive, the hero so far of this very short series we've seen, is going to have to make something work. Simply Matt now moving in from the north. That's a big cue to Oath that it's time for them to start to come in and take over, or at least kind of try to clean up the team of Sonic. So super rough for Tig. I don't know really what he can do here.
I mean, Tig all the way down to 9 HP. We see his vest is completely destroyed, and he's out of smokes. His utility's down to just 2 Molotovs and a nade. So being out in the center of the field is going to make this rotation just a bit difficult. I think you have to remember down in Impala, you've got Zenith who's been taking shots on this, as well as Oath still up to the north. Mystery, speaking of Zenith, is going to spot out Simply Matt, and that is it for Liberate. No, excuse me, Liberate still has Ice Tech up, so they've got one left alive. But who doesn't have anyone alive is Fabled. Rip has been found by McCoy, and they're going to be eliminated. Meanwhile, down in the south, Illusion bobbing and weaving, trying to find their way into the zone as they're going to thread the needle here between Zenith and Carnage. Man. Can they make it work?
They're making it work now, at least for the meantime. Can they get over this hill? The flying Murados?
Ooh, Top Dog is so low.
But they
and
really
sending
don't
it
have
right
anywhere to
here
go.
into ATC as Aguila's going to get that knock onto top. It didn't take much, but Adam stopping his vehicle right inside their compound. Looking for that close range. Nades are out. Is it going to be enough? An exchange right now of utility Molotovs out as well. And Adam's going to get knocked, but once again, Zenith from those compounds in Impala. They can see all from that compound. An Illusion reading the situation at hand, trying to stay alive. It's Icy Flex struggling down to 8 HP.
I gotta say, Zenith had the option. I mean, they were there fairly early. They had the option to kind of move out and go into the center where we see this giant stack of teams. But they wisely chose to stay on the outside and in those buildings where they can pretty much see all of what's going on in the circle. And Radiance is now 3 members knocked. What happened here?
Ooh, and Monty with the Molotov looks for the flush as McCoy and Gaxi both go out. And all that's left is Los HDs we see on the minimap just further out to the west. So Comets will pick up 3 here as the circle gets ready to close. We'll see where it's going to transition. And all of these teams that have been playing the edge so successfully so far, we're going to perhaps have to move once again as we're getting ready to enter into the late game. We can see on the minimap the circle is going to pull further north. So now Comets who've been playing the zone are going to have to move in.
This is such a weird circle. Comets are going to move in. They should be okay, but they are going to have to fight Carnage.
I think Zenith actually sent it out of Impala as we see Tiggleton lighting up in the kill feed. Roth and Mystery go down and out. And Sonics.
Remember, Tig is a solo. Tig is a solo. Oh, and he wipes Zenith!
Beautiful. Zenith eliminated Tiggleton with a nade, takes it out, but immediately Snakers says, you know what? Enough is enough.
Man.
We've let you stay alive just a little bit too long. And Oath is going to win this out. So great play by all of those. But Tiggleton, I mean, right now, our current kill leader, and rightfully so.
Hey, so far, he was my MVP, and so far, he's doing a great job. I also want to give a shout out to Oath. They could have came in earlier and tried to clean all that up. But they had the very intelligent decision of staying on the edge and making sure they gave anyone a hard time coming in. Hardships is now that next team. Yep.
I mean, you've got Balefrost and Rilla with a really nice angle onto this. We'll get the knock onto Lobes. Chubba is very low indeed. And the rest of Hardships now trying to make this up as Oath sending it back in for safety. Meanwhile, Comets eliminate what's left of Radiance. But you can see Pat Caps looking for an angle to help out teammates. So back in the cars trying to send it. J-Sank, the last one still up for Houston here.
Yep. And just like that, the fight is J-Sank. Can you do anything? That's a knock.
I mean, 9 HP, dude. He got a knock on Rilla, but a nice nade! And that is it. Houston Hardships eliminated by Oath. There you go. I mean, Oath, another team that really has been doing so well on Miramar for the group stages right now, sitting on to 8 kills, 20 points their name for the series. And really still continuing to hold strong position here to the north. Meanwhile, back down to the south, Carnage Gaming taking shots here onto Dodge as they try to work their way into the zone. We can see on the minimap, Duel is here as well. It is very, very busy.
Yeah, very busy indeed. And that's just because there's nothing to play in the circle. There's one compound, which Duel is holding, and everything else is open. Now, there are ridges and things that we do see like ATC playing around, but this is a rough circle to play if you're not already established. And these teams coming in, I mean, they're either slaughtering or getting slaughtered.
Another thing, too, I mean, we've got 1 player for Liberate still left alive, 2 players left for ATC. Carnage, a 3-stack. Oath is, I believe, still a 4-stack, and Duel a 4.
So, at least 3, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, sorry, excuse me. Oath is 3. Nope, they are 4. All 4 players for Oath are up, and as you see, it is a crate just to the outside of ATC, but it's a very tricky position for them to go and loot that right now, with Oath still so far out to the north, Carnage out to the east, and once again, the circle's shifting. And it's going to stay on that compound for Duel a little bit longer, but feast or famine, sometimes having the compound through the late game can be a little bit of a curse. They're not able to accomplish as much with it.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I think Duel may have to kind of step out of their comfort zone of that compound and really start to impose their will on the circle, because they have the position to do it. And I'm afraid if they stay in that compound and they stay too complacent, Oath can push up from the north, take that ridge that you see Ice Tech on, and then just kind of hold out the rest of Duel if the circle shifts away from them.
Well, and I think, too, something to keep in mind is that if this Oath and Carnage fight breaks out, Duel could really walk away without much onto this. Or say that, though, Danny G gets a knock onto Crawfresh, but Carnage will lose Lun here. They did send one up ahead onto ATC, but right now, Aguila is going to get Zragod down, so Carnage now down 2 players. Unfortunate situation. This is There you go.
ATC has survived.
Coming in crash, they're looking for it. So Snaker's at 14 HP, but he's not going to let him stop that as more mollies come out, looking for a flush onto this, and Oath trying to clear out both Carnage and ATC, continuing to regain control of the north. And in fact, if they win this fight out, they'll have pretty much majority of the zone here.
I mean, I think at this point, ATC has survived a small ordnance count of what you would use against the small army. I mean, there's so much utility thrown at them, yet they're still alive. They're still surviving somehow. This is why I love watching ATC, man. They are obnoxious to play against because they just do not go down. And Aguila is still up after pretty much the rest of all the utility coming out from Oath. I mean, that's wild. And now this is what I was talking about. Oath slowly starting to push up. Duel still stuck in that compound. They kind of missed their opportunity to move out. We'll see what happens.
And a little bit more utility out towards, it looks like, trying to take shots at Aguila. Will blow up that Murado, and that vehicle explosion was enough. Aguila has been taken out. ATC falls into 5th place, and we've got our top 4 teams as Crawfresh working on that res to Ripper, trying to keep them 2 men up. Meanwhile, Liberate Ice Tech, he's been alive this whole time and has managed to not be seen by anybody up to the north, including Oath. And as the circle takes a shift once again, let's see if he is safe. He is. And Duel finally having to leave their compound, but Ripper and Crawfish will have to move as well. And that's going to take them right into the barrels of Relo and Pat Caps.
Yeah, I think Duel missed their chance. They had the potential to move up and kind of take control of this themselves, but you know, they just kind of stayed put, and because of that, this is where Oath, I think, slowly starts to constrict their hold onto this game.
Ooh, and as you say that, Oath is going to get a knock onto Ripper. Nades are out. All they have left to worry about is Crawfresh, and they can completely rotate around this angle as Ripper is going to get flushed out there by Snakers.
Oh,
now
flash coming out.
To almost turn their attention, but Crawfresh is going to deny that. Molotov comes out, but it just falls short. Crawfresh actually spotted up by Cherry. Duel finally sending it out of the compound, and the fight that we've been waiting for is here. Danny G, though, down to 9 HP. We see a flash was out by Oath onto this. So 3 very, very close up here for Duel. That's a very bad idea. All it takes is 1 nade, and they could all be gone in the blink of an eye, but Snakers is going to get flushed out by Cherry. As we see them, Wooly start to send it. Has been found out by Balefrost. Falls here. Cherry and Danny G looking for an angle. Meanwhile, Lampalot still behind, anchored onto the compound, trying to call information. Pat Caps is going to fall to Cherry here. And Duel.
And Oath is falling apart.
This back out. Look. Pat Caps down now as well. This is insane.
I feel like Oath really had the better position here, but Duel has been fighting tooth and nail to move forward, and they're doing a great job of it. Ice Tech is also still a factor in this game. I mean, he hasn't done anything.
Ice Tech is, I think, has the opportunity to surprise whatever's left of one of these 2 teams. Oath down to just 2 players. Duel right now struggling to keep their players up, as we see Relo has been knocked at, unfortunately, Cherry trying to get onto this. So Balefrost, the last player still up for Oath, starting to send it here onto Duel. And he's going to get spotted out. And there you go. Ice Tech now versus what's left of Duel. 2 players still up. Danny's been out. Liberate immediately taking shots onto this. Ice Tech trying to get him out. And we see it's 75 HP. Molly. So this is interesting. I think Ice Tech could potentially have the opportunity if he could just get 1 more knock here.
Did he not remember which tree he was behind? I just thought Ice was going to molly that tree. I think he might have got confused. It looks like he's going to find the knock-in flush.
Got the knock-in flush onto Lampalot. I mean, now is the time to push, right? You do have this res coming out onto Danny G, but Cherry is going to finalize that. Ice Tech using this instead as an opportunity to pop off that first aid kit. The AKM ready to go. It needs to push now or never. Phase 9 is here. He's got almost the center of the zone, but it's a 2v1 situation. Meanwhile, Cherry going wide, looking for the angle here onto Ice Tech.
They have to be careful to not give him 2 1v1s, but at the same time, they need to play for trades. So it's tough. I mean, Ice Tech can definitely win this. I think Duel, the way they're playing it now, is correct. Again, playing for trades and not giving him the 1v1s. So we'll see. I mean, he's pretty much prone in the open at this point. If they see him, I think it's all over. But if he can get a knock here.
And here it comes, Cherry. Setting up for this. Shots onto Ice Tech. Ice Tech down to 17 HP. Stopping once again to use the first aid, but Duel is not letting go of the aggression. Looking for the angle. Cherry finds it in the end. Duel with 9 kills. showing us why they deserve to be here as they take victory here in match number 3.